Hi everyone, and welcome back to BD Studios. In this video, I was inspired by nature and birds. I was looking through photographs of different types of birds, and I came across one that was really pretty, and that's where I drew my inspiration. I will be using oil pastels, and obviously I'm sketching out my birdie and referencing back to my telephone to look at an actual photograph of a bird. And with the oil pastels, I'm also going to be using, if you see it off to the side, is fluid acrylic paints. And then I'll also be using regular acrylic paint. So the way I figure this out is just lightly sketching with my pencil. I'm holding it almost like a piece of charcoal, and just referencing back to the picture back and forth to have a base for when you start drawing. You need to have your basic outline. And lately I've been obsessed with craft paper. I just love the way the oil pastels and the acrylic paints take to the craft paper. It absorbs paint differently than watercolor paper. It absorbs differently than regular paper, but it's still sturdy enough that after you're done with your piece, you can put a book over it and it'll flatten out really nicely. So again, I'm just loosely sketching, and now I'm deciding what color I'm going to use with the oil pastels. I'm kind of stuck there inside the box. These are so fun. It takes you back to when you were a kid, about using crayons when you were in kindergarten or whatever. There's a close-up of my reference because there's a lot of glare and you missed a little bit of the lines there. So I'm starting off with white, and ever so often I go back to my reference photograph so I can see where all the different colors that the birdie has. That's why my hand goes off like that to the side. But I really enjoy this medium. It allows you to create depth and all sorts of stuff, and you don't really have to have a very fine line. You could just, again, like when you're back in kindergarten, and it's very satisfying to use these crayons. They're big and bulky. They allow you to just make your design without a serious commitment. Again, like I've always said, when you paint, you can cover it up. If you made a mistake, or sometimes it's a happy mistake, but you could always cover it up. Well, I'm coming back in now after I did my white, and I'm adding this soft blue. The bird that I'm making is blue. It has white, it has orange. It's got a lot of colors and a lot of dark shadows, which I'm using black to bring them out. So I'm using my pencil marks as references. You're going to cover up the pencil marks, so it doesn't matter where you put them. But it allows you to mark it up again without a serious commitment, because we can come back in and fix all those lines again. I'm sitting in the garage while I voice this over. It's a beautiful day outside. I can hear the birds chirping, and there's a nice breeze in the air, which is a nice change here in South Florida. We have a little niceness coming for the fall, which is fabulous. So now I switched over to the darker blue. I had added the orange, and now I'm adding the darker blue. And when you do that, you're mixing your lighter blue, your darker blue, going back to the teal, mixing the two colors. It's almost like if you've ever painted with acrylic, the way you mix two colors. Well, you can do the same thing with oil pastels. More black, and then you come back in and you add your white, which makes a little bit of gray. See how it softens it? I went over all the black to soften all my crayon marks. Very satisfying. And if you've never tried oil pastels, they're not expensive. Go grab some and get in the zone, which is basically what I'm doing here. So I'm doing the whole background in white, and then I'll add color on top of that. But he looks so mysterious, so peaceful. So let's see. So now I've decided to switch over to my fluid acrylic, and I'm using similar tones to the light, the black and the brown, and that mustard is going to be for my sky, for my background. So you see how I just took like a little peachy color and I added little colors here and there, little highlights here and there under his eye, went back and softened the black lines with a darker blue. It's all about more layering, more thinking about what's the next step I'm going to take, and I've decided to do what? A little more orange. A little more orange. Sometimes you just can't get as much brilliant color when you use the oil pastels. So now I'm going to add a little red because I wasn't happy with the orange. Oh, changed my mind. Oh, a little green. See, it's all what your eye sees. And I thought at this point I could add a little green because when the light hits some of its feathers, you get different shadows. All right. I have all my different shades that I wanted to use of the fluid acrylics. So what I'm doing right now is softening all the crayon marks that I made with the white, and I'm adding teal and I'm adding a little bit of the mustard. I'm almost trying to create like a sky and sun effect, but still keeping it real muted and soft and playing off the colors of the bird, so that he kind of blends in with his background, but he still really stands out because he's the star of the show. And I love to mute. You get so much depth from using these different types of mediums. Again, feel free to slow down the video. If you want to try this at home, you want to try this process, just slow down the video, stop it, and here I'm adding more white light so that he pops in the paste a little bit, and then you blend it a little bit more, and when you mix the yellow and that teal, you get a little bit of green, which is fine too. I like it a lot. A little bit more yellow. It's all up to you if you want to do it more blue. I wanted to have that little pop of yellow so that the sun is out, or is it a snowy day? I don't know. I just like the illusion, and that's what I went with. The right side has more yellow, the left side has blue towards the top, it has blue towards the bottom. So let's see, what am I doing here? I'm adding a little bit more definition with the black there, but it's still the fluid acrylic, so it's really soft. You could see it there in the picture. It blends and gives it almost like gray color, so not everything is the same color. So I ended up getting a little bit of the orange that you see there on the palette is actual acrylic paint, not fluid. So I'm mixing both. So I have fluid acrylic, I have regular acrylic. If you want the color to pop a little bit more, get your regular acrylic and mix it. That bit of white that I have off to the side, it's actually like a cream color. It's also regular acrylic. But when you blend it together, and see, I blended it with my finger. Don't be afraid to get dirty with your art. That sounds funny, but it's true. Just blend with your fingers. Use the back of the brush. There's so many tools you have at hand, and you need to take advantage of anything that you think of. Try it. You'd be surprised. You learn from all your mishaps sometimes. I'm adding more depth with the fluid acrylic because he's got a nice little feather there, and I wanted to add shadows, a little bit more of the teal to bring out and blend the black lines that I made. More orange. You gotta have a nice transition because the feathers are all mixed together, and if you just have a sharp edge, it doesn't look correct. So you want to blend so that one feather is next to the other feather. Again, more definition. With these fluid acrylics, you lose a little bit of the definition, so you have to layer and layer. See how I'm creating feathers? But it's so light and soft. That's what I liked. And I'm blending the blue there. Sorry, the camera went out a little bit out of focus. Gotta figure that out. Little sharpening so you see when the beak ends and the curvature of the body starts. Very satisfying technique. Again, too much, wipe it off. Sit back and look back at the piece and see where the light is coming from. The light is hitting him in the front, but since there's the branch and everything creates shadow against his tail feathers, so I added more black. I also the tree doesn't come out, the brown comes out too light, so I blended all, and then I added a little bit of the cream and a little bit more. But just go back and forth and try it until you get the color that you're happy with. More depth with the black, and then a little bit of white for his eye. I want it to pop. A little bit more white. And the reason I'm doing this is I go back and look at my photograph and I see all different little textures that the bird has when the light hits his different areas. So I'm going back and looking at the photograph, my inspiration and my reference, and I'm adding a little bit of white to soften all that dark, to give it light, to give it depth. Again, if you make a mistake, you're not happy with it, you added too much white, go back and add the blue, go back and add the black. You know, a piece is never done sometimes. You may sit back and then come back another day and say, hey, I think I want to add a little bit of red under his eye, and do it. It's okay. See, I want to add a little bit more depth there in his eye. I want it to pop because he's such an interesting, beautiful character that I want to do him justice. So I keep on going back to the picture and looking at him and saying, where did one feather end? Where did the other one start? Visualize things in shapes. And follow the line of where his feathers start and where the next feathers start. And nature is such a beautiful thing, but you have to see it. For me, I have to see it like with shapes, and it makes more sense in my mind. Everybody thinks differently, you know. Everybody's approaches art in a different way. I think approaching it, if you're starting off with shapes, it makes things come a lot easier to you. So I'm going back in with the dark real acrylic paint. I'm not using that other little dot of black on the opposite top left hand corner is acrylic paint, and on the bottom is fluid acrylic. So I went back in and added more. You look at your reference and you go back in and you add more. You may have a bird in your mind, but sometimes you just need a photograph of an actual bird so that you can really capture all the beauty that you're thinking in your mind, but this gives you a good perspective. Find an image that you like and give it a shot. So what I'm doing there is creating like a little mutedness around him so that the air is hitting him and his feathers are not perfect in shape. They're they're not still. That gives it movement. So I clean my brush and I sit back and I look again and I'm like, now what? Okay, maybe more yellow. Maybe it's a sunny day. Now I took an old brush that I have that I've messed up and it's kind of scratchy, and I've liked it like that, and I'm just blending all the crayon marks. I'm scratching it up basically, and at the same time you scratch, you're mixing your colors. I'm doing the same thing on the bird, because when you use oil pastels, you get like those little pieces of crayon marks, and I don't like it. So see how I created a little shadow there for his eye? The reference photograph had that kind of shadow, and the more you look at the reference photograph, the more you can add to it. Again, mix it with your fingers. It's all good. No rules. No rules. And that up and down, you're creating the illusion of feathers. You see that up and down technique. A little bit more of the teal to add a little bit more light. He's a handsome fellow. I really like him. He's so beautiful. Obviously, it's not going to be identical to the photograph. You know, it's my interpretation. A photograph is real. This is as real as I can make it. And I'm done. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. Try this at home.